we have in our society and inside companies, we have a bunch of mechanisms that we use to resolve these kinds of disputes. A lot of them are, I think, really bad. So an example of a really bad way of coming to agreement is compromise. So compromise, look, we're in a room here and I could say, Lex, how tall do you think this ceiling is? And you'd be like, I don't know, Jeff, maybe 12 feet tall. And I would say, I think it's 11 feet tall.
Yeah.
And then we'd say, you know what? Let's just call it 11 and a half feet. That's compromise.
Yeah.
Instead of the right thing to do is, to get a tape measure or figure out some way of actually measuring. But getting that tape measure and figure out how to get it to the top of the ceiling and all these things, that requires energy. Compromise, the advantage of compromise as a resolution mechanism is that it's low energy, but it doesn't lead to truth. And so in things like the height of the ceiling, where truth is a knowable thing, you shouldn't allow compromise to be used when you can know the truth. Another really bad resolution mechanism that happens all the time is just who's more stubborn.
Yeah.
This is also, so you have, let's say, two executives who disagree, and they just have a war of attrition. And whichever one gets exhausted first capitulates to the other one. Again, you haven't arrived at truth. And this is very demoralizing. So, this is where escalation, I try to ask people who, on my team, I say, never get to a point where you are resolving something by, who gets exhausted first. Escalate that. I'll help you make the decision. Because that's so de-energizing and such a terrible, lousy way to make a decision.
So you want to get to the resolution as quickly as possible because that ultimately leads to a high velocity of decision.
Yes, and you want to try to get as close to truth as possible.
Yeah.
So you want, exhausting the other person is not truth-seeking.
Yes.
And compromise is not truth-seeking. So, it doesn't mean, and there are a lot of cases where no one knows the real truth, and that's where disagree and commit can come in. But it's escalation is better than war of attrition. Escalate to your boss and say, hey, we can't agree on this. We like each other. We're respectful of each other, but we strongly disagree with each other. We need you to, make a decision here so we can move forward. But decisiveness, moving forward quickly on decisions, as quickly as you responsibly can, is how you increase velocity. Most of what slows things down is taking too long to make decisions at all skill levels. So it has to be part of the culture to get high velocity. Amazon has 1.5 million people, and the company is still fast. We're still decisive. We're still quick. And that's because the culture supports that.